Come on. Come here. Oh, God, I got you. I got you.
I know my future is, but it'll never be our past. You can distance in your world, you'll never ever change the past.
Hey, welcome to GVN Live, everybody. I am Fight Club Hubs, and Jan, you're late. And with me is Jan and Mr. Mark B. Writing, and welcome. We got some really interesting topics to talk about today. I mean, they're hot button issues, which is I mean, we have a lot of those on this show. So, but before we dive into that, real quick, let's see what we've been up to lately. Mark, what's happening?
Going in and out of doctors. That's really about the extent of it as far as that sort of thing goes. I don't have a lot going on. I've been streaming pretty regularly on Fridays and Saturdays.
That's good. Yeah, I've been tuning in for some of the streams.
That's pretty much about it, honestly.
Oh, speaking of which, I'm taking off Sunday, so I mean, do you have one more for board game night?
This coming Saturday?
Yeah.
I think we have a space open. I believe this one will be Kane, Nate, Carl, me, and Sean. So we should have a sixth. So if you want to come, it should be fine.
Okay, cool. All right then, sweet. What have you been playing lately?
I'm trying to think. Have I really been playing anything gaming-wise recently?
I mean, other than Super Robot Wars?
Yeah, actually, other than Super Robot Wars.
Yeah, we've been watching you play that wonderful English translated Japan-American game.
Well, when you say you have Sunday off, you don't mean this coming Sunday, right?
This coming Sunday.
Well, this coming Saturday is a video game night, dude.
Oh.
Last Saturday was board game night.
Oh.
Bro, it never works in your favor. Just
well, it doesn't work in his favor or my favor.
That's a shame.
Poor Robert.
Womp.
You should see if you could trade this coming Sunday for next Sunday.
But I'd like my time and a half. And I only want to take off at least one Sunday a month. But yeah, we'll work out the details Sunday.
You need to figure out when you're taking your Sundays off. That's the problem. Super Robot Wars has pretty much been it, I think. I haven't played any other video games. I haven't bought anything in a few weeks. Last thing I bought was Metro, maybe. I can't think of anything else I purchased, and I haven't. Like, nothing has really come out that I've been, like, bouncing up and down to buy. Like, Devil May Cry 5 looks really good, and a lot of people have said it's really good, but I'm doing other stuff right now, so I haven't been interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm adjusting to a bunch of stuff, and dealing with a bunch of stuff from, like, the doctor visits and whatnot, so I'm kind of just like, with buying a new game right now, so.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of supposedly really good games coming out this year, so it can be very easy for us to just get lost in, do I want to buy this hot game now, or do I want to wait another month or two?
Yeah, exactly. And like Devil May Cry 5 is looking really interesting and enjoyable, but by the same token, it's sort of like, is it going to be like on my top games of the year list? Don't know. Maybe. Like Resident Evil 2, obviously fucking masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, what was the other game I played this year that was also like a game of the year masterpiece? Well, God Eater 3, absolutely game of the year masterpiece. Like, put that on my fucking list without a question or an exception. I feel like there was something else that I played that came out this year that was really good, and I'm spacing on it for some shit awful reason, which is terrible. But then, like, I bought Metro, and that's the kind of game that's going to, stay on my list until like 8 other games come out that replace it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I don't feel it being like an end of the year game. So it's just kind of like, I'm not jumping up and down to buy something right now. Like I took my time on and I invested a little bit of time and consideration into Anthem, and that bit me in the ass because that game is not good.
It's kind
So
of
it's just
funny because you said it was good when you played the closed beta.
the closed beta was good. It was good. They gave a good presentation of a game, and they screwed the pooch on it. And my first gut reaction was, fuck that game, I'm not going to like it. And then a bunch of other people I know got into the hype for it, and I was like, you know what, I'll give it a try, and I played it, and it was fine. And no, it turns out listening to other people was a bad idea. I should have just gone with my gut reactions and said, fuck that piece of shit. And it turns out that having optimism for things is a terrible fucking idea. When you're an old, bitter curmudgeon like I am, you're better off just assuming that stuff like this is going to be shit because you're probably going to be right.
Anything on the horizon for you? Any videos or anything coming up?
No, I'm still working on my medication adjustment right now.
Oh, okay.
I don't really I'm writing scripts, but haven't gotten past that part, so we'll see what happens.
Okay. You know what? We'll do something different. I'll go next. So I've been playing a couple of games. Still playing plenty of Tetris 99. I love that fucking game. Haven't won a match yet, but still. Did you see that one picture I posted on Twitter? Start of the match,
Yeah.
I got 11 people targeted me, and I managed to get 6 of them knocked out, which was
Like
Damn,
every
nice.
person I know who has played that game has won at least one match.
I
How
haven't.
bad are you at Tetris?
I'm not that great, okay?
All right.
I am not that great, but I have consistently got to 5th place on several occasions. So, obviously I'm getting better. It's one of those things where you have to
Top
get
10,
into
top
that
5, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
one
there's
of those
only 4 people. There's consistently 4 people in the world who are better than you.
that is perfectly okay. I'm never
Or
going to
just
call myself
faster killing you.
that too. I am never going to say I'm good at a Tetris game. But I'm just surprised at how well I can get into my zen moment to somehow survive that long in a game of Tetris 99.
Fair
But other game I have been playing is DOA 6.
Don't like it.
That's all I've been hearing from it.
There's a lot of people that like it. There's a lot of people that don't. Several of my Japanese and Korean friends do not like it. The reasons why I don't like it: the complete, utter lack of a ground game, which is something about the Dead or Alive 5 series that I incredibly liked about it.
Yeah, I hated the way that DOA had started transitioning into a fucking juggle fest. I thought that was fucking stupid, and it drove me away from the game. When 4 was mostly that.
Yeah.
5 improving upon that, was okay. I tried it out, but it was just too far gone for me as a player. So the idea that 6 has gotten back to being worse than 4, no buys.
I wouldn't
No
say
buys.
it's worse than 4, but I will say that it's closer to something between 2 and 3 in terms of how its mechanics work. There's really no ground game. I can't tell you how bad it is. My habit of when I force knock someone down onto the ground is to run up and text somebody to stand up so I can continue my offense, only to run up to the person and upon trying to hit them while they're on the ground, noticing that I'm just whiffing every single time and nothing happens, which sucks
Jesus.
utterly. I am not exactly a fan of the new super button. I mean, granted, it's got some interesting mechanics to it, but sometimes they just don't seem to want to work the way you want to work.
This sounds like Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, where they changed so much that nobody wanted to fucking play it, except for Die Hard.
I like the idea of using the super as oh no, I'm about to get launched into a major combo. Immediately do a super counter hold, which doesn't really, which in hindsight should give you at least some kind of leeway in terms of mounting an offense. But I found myself more often than not, the moment doing a whole super counter, suddenly just getting kicked by somebody in the face. I have found people have used there's three things you can do with this button. There's a standard super combo where you hit the button 4 times and it does this crazy combo. There's one where you press forward and it does, the super attack or the break attack or whatever the hell they want to call it. I can't remember. And that's just a straight up attack. I've seen people somehow use that and it counters whatever attack I'm doing, negates whatever input I've done, and just goes right into the super. Whereas I've done the same thing with the same character in similar situations, and I get punched out of it. It is absolutely ludicrous. I've also it's just absolutely jarring to also see characters have 90% damage dealing combos using this super system.
So what you're saying is this game will not be nominated for best fighting game that isn't Street Fighter this year.
If Dr. Dog is with us, I'll let him be the guy that handles that.
Isn't it like the first fighting game to come out this year so far?
Yeah.
So we've got that and Mortal Kombat 11.
I think that's about it. And there might be an update. Oh, yeah. Samurai Showdown, which somehow got into Evo before DOA 6 and not released, as well as the new Unil game, which isn't out yet. Yeah, Unist, which isn't out yet. Is it?
Yeah, it is. It's on Steam.
Unist?
Unist.
Yeah, Unist, it's on Steam.
Under Night. Under Night. In
Under
Birth.
Night in Burn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that out? Is that out?
Supposed to be.
I gotta
Is
get
it?
that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If it is, then I need to get it because Batista's a thing. Anyway.
But yeah, it's just I think it's.
I will forever buy French bread fighting games.
Mm-hmm.
The moment that they listen, Melty Blood is the best fighting game I have ever played. Fucking fight me.
I haven't played enough of it to argue, so
in Melty Blood, not like in real life.
All I know is that when it comes to
I just stood on you.
Yeah.
All I know is that when it comes to Melty Blood, the floor is lava. That's all I know. So,
Well, technically, but I'm not even going to get into that.
I know it's crazy, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Wires type of game. So
It's fun. It's good.
it is. I mean, from what little bit I've played, I found it to be hilariously fun. What else? What do I have on the horizon? Well, I'm waiting for my buddy Reggie to come back so we can film our next game adaptation review. We are going to look at the Prince of Persia: Sands of Time movie. We're going to. Last time we did Mortal Kombat, and we just pretty much came to the conclusion that okay, hey, it doesn't stand up well in terms of aging, but it was still a fun movie. It's probably still one of the better live video game adaptations out there. So, coming up in April is going to be our first theme month. We're going to look at 3 different types of form of the Legend of Zelda adaptations. 2 comic book adaptations, and of course the cartoon series from Dick. Or Deek. I don't know how you pronounce it. D-I-C, Dick.
It's pronounced Deek.
Deek. Yeah. It's been about 25
You only
years.
pronounce it Dick if you are one.
Got
Deek. Okay. And that's about it. I mean, I have an idea because we've been talking about this so long, and we just never managed to get it off the planning, off the floor, off. Just
words.
Yes, words. I'm not the only one having problems with words today, too. We've been planning this, and I want to see what you guys think, and we'll talk about it after the show. There's this game I saw. I will happily buy you guys each a copy. Visceral Cleaning Up Detail.
I already have it.
Oh, you already have it? Okay, then I don't have to buy you a copy. I'll buy Jan a copy. It's like $12. But I think it would be a fun thing for us to do, like days between GVN Live. So, with that, Jan, sorry to make you wait so long. What you been doing? What you got to plug?
So games that I have been playing. God Eater 3. Fantastic game. It plays so much better than 2 Rage Burst. I'm having an enormous amount of fun with it. I've actually been streaming it pretty much just consistently. It's like the only thing I've been streaming recently, just because it's like I'm actually interested in playing a God Eater game. Like 2 was good, but like it didn't hold my attention. But like God Eater 3 has held my attention like really well. Goodness, what have I? Pretty much really all I've been like playing. No, I lied. So earlier we were talking about like big year for games. March in specific had 4 really big AAA titles hit the floor. Um, Devil May Cry, Division 2 sees release this week.
Mm-hmm.
Sekiro hits on the 22nd.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, I'm super excited for Sekiro.
Especially after last year's E3 presentation.
So, plus it's from software, so like recently you can't really go wrong with them. Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, good shit. And then Left Alive. And so I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Left Alive was a co-creation, Square Enix, Kojima Productions, and a couple of very well-known creators from Japan who worked on things like Gundam and what's the other game? Armored Core. And these guys all got together and they decided we're going to make a stealth action ground shooter with mech combat. And I'm like, okay. And I saw some of the early gameplay and I saw some of the early mech designs and I saw some of the early story concepts and I'm like, I want to play this game. Not just because it's a Kojima production being released by Square Enix, but like it looks legitimately like right up my alley. This looks like something I would really enjoy storyline wise to actually want to play through it and see what it's all about, get more details in it. Because it's like, it kind of felt like a weird offshoot Metal Gear like mech alternate universe. Like it just seemed like it would be something that's just, it's like Mark always says, it's a Jan game. Wow, am I upset? I'm so upset. I wanted this game to be good, and holy crap, it has been nothing but frustration after frustration for this game. It just I don't even know. It just, I lost my shit within the first like 2 hours of playing it. It took me, God, how long did it take me to actually figure out how to get past the first area? Like 15 minutes just to sort of figure out where the crap I was supposed to go. And I'm just like, I want to like this game. Square Enix, please let me like this game. Oh god, I'm dead again. Square Enix, why do you hate me? That was like literally my mind, the process in my mind. Like it took me 4 hours just to get past like the first 2 sets of cutscenes and like basic information of the game and how you're supposed to actually get to like from point A to point B without anything really telling you what the fuck is going on. I got one pop-up that said, here's how you use secondary weapons. Here's how you use items. Here's how you use health. Good luck. And I'm like, oh. So yeah, it was, it's been quite an experience. I'm still going to keep trying. It's not Quiet Man bad, but it's bad. And I'm kind of upset about it.
I'm sorry for your suffering.
Look, I do it to myself. I mean, I do it to myself. Let's just talk about that for a minute. I'm sure you can see my Himiko in the background. Don't ask.
I have so many questions, but I'm not going to ask them.
Look, waifus are waifus. You can't say no.
But sadistic waifus?
Anyway, if we're talking subject of fighting games, I would like to touch base on the games being played at Evo list.
All right, so a mini topic. Here we go.
So purely because of the fact that there are 2 things that I wanted to touch on. 1, Melee is not at Evo. Ultimate is. Good.
Yeah, to be truthfully honest. Only one Smash game.
I don't care that it's only one Smash game. I'm glad that it's Ultimate. And the reason for that is because all of the characters that are both in Melee and in Wii U are on Ultimate. The characters that everyone wanted to play, the newer characters that people are actually still playing, like Bayonetta and Cloud, and Shulk are still seeing play because it's in Ultimate. The reason why he made the decision to just do Ultimate is because all of the characters and the playstyle from Melee are in Ultimate. Why would Melee need to actually be there?
Mhm.
That's
Late
redundant.
ST came out in 2018, so that's kind of disappointing.
Which one did?
Late ST.
Fair.
So nothing for this year.
Mm.
Boo.
I mean, yeah, it is.
But
what
there
it
is another. Wait, two unreleased. Yeah, never mind. I was trying to remember the Evo list, how it got
There
two
are two
unreleased,
games.
2 games that haven't released yet.
Mortal
are on the
Kombat
list.
11 and Samurai Showdown, yeah.
And
Yeah,
yet we
Mortal
have,
Kombat and Sub Show.
and of course, even though I'm not a fan of Dead or Alive 6, there are tons of people who are so angry that it just got snubbed over again.
No, it's not a snub. Get out of here. It's not a snub. There are 2 main reasons why DOA 6 is not going to be at Evo. One,
The Cannon and Mr. Wizard.
that has nothing to do with it. One, the fan base, the player base, is so small at this point for the DOA community. They did this to themselves. I will go on record for that. If you want to flame me for it, please, by all means, bring it on. Because
Okay,
you guys
the
did
fan
this
base
to
is larger
yourself.
than it was back when it was at Evo 2007, where they actually had well over 128-man bracket for that tournament, which was actually, I think, the 4th largest game at that Evo.
Right, but also,
Right after
what year was that
Tekken.
again?
Hmm?
What year was that again?
2007.
Yeah. See, here's the problem with that. It's not 2007 anymore.
Except that's also
2019.
Evo, where usually the numbers tend to be bigger than normal majors that are run across the United States of America. Where
Doesn't matter.
10 years ago, Dead or Alive
Have
tournaments
you
were on
seen
average.
the community?
Yes.
That's the thing.
the thing
Yes,
to keep in
considering
mind
I
here
was
is,
a
Robert,
part of
is
the
that-
community for the last, I don't know, 15
The thing
years.
to keep in mind, though, Robert, is that the DOA community is larger than it was in 2000. Is as large as it was, if not slightly larger than it was in 2007.
Mhm.
All
Oh,
of the
it's-
other fighting game communities out there have grown exponentially larger than they were at that period. DOA did not see an explosion of growth in the same way that other fighting game communities did. It just kind of dipped for a while, and now it came back. All of the games they have on this list, with maybe 2 exceptions, almost certainly have a larger overall fan base than DOA. And the only 2 I'm going to say don't are Under Night in Birth, because that's a decidedly niche title. I would say that one might have slightly
Anime's
less.
anime, though.
But to be
Yeah,
truthfully honest, the majority of anime games, with the exception of Dragon Ball Fighter Z, DOA has usually more consistent numbers, higher numbers than most of the animes. Like, you could have literally 4 anime games at a tournament, like at the Big E events. They will average maybe 30 people. DOA is now almost averaging anywhere between 40 to 50 people at a major. And
Sure.
in fact, DOA 6 at this recent Winter Brawl 3D had full 8 had a full 64-man bracket for a game that wasn't even out yet.
Sure, but again, like, we're talking, okay, that's one anime game that's on the list, Under Night in Birth.
And then you have Samurai Showdown, which, to be truthfully honest, I don't remember ever seeing a fan base for those games. It's an SNK game.
Doesn't
And-
matter. So,
and
so
let me also talk about the SNK community right there for a second. A community that shows up only when the game comes out and dramatically drops in terms of support within a year or 2 of the game's release.
do you hear yourself talking? Do you actually understand what you're saying?
Yes.
Do you know how much larger the fucking KOF community is compared to the actual DOA community on a consistent yearly basis?
I don't know. Last time I checked, I've seen
Why
KOF
do you think
dropped.
KOF always shows up on the ballots to see whether or not it's going to be an added fan game at every fucking Evo, and DOA hasn't seen that list since 2012?
DOA was
Sorry.
on the last few lists, actually.
No, it wasn't. On the last 2 years, it was not. And the reason for that is because no one wanted to touch last round. No one wanted to touch last round because the game was buggy, it was broken, and the actual tier list as baseline for the players had a very consistent four people at the actual top of those lists, who one of them wouldn't even travel to play the game at Evo. He said, no, there's no reason to. This is what I'm talking about. It has nothing to do with numbers. It has nothing to do with player base. It has nothing to do with who's better than who. It has everything to do with the fact that the DOA community over the last 2 years have become the most toxic community in the FGC. Again, come at me. I don't care. It's the truth. I follow.
It's not the
enough
truth
of these
because I'm
groups.
there. I've seen
I
more
follow enough
toxicity
of
in the
these-
Street Fighter community than I do in the DOA community. I see a lot of infighting with the DOA community.
Okay. Can we please stop? Can we please stop jousting with our e-penises for a second here? Listen. Robert, the Street Fighter community is always going to have a larger volume of toxic people than any other fighting game community in the entirety of the existence of fighting games because it's the largest community. The largest community is, by virtue of being the largest, going to have the largest amount of fucking assholes in it.
Mhm.
That's the way that's always going to be from now until the end of time. Using the Street Fighter community as an example, it is true, but it does not help your argument.
No,
Jan,
here's the
no. Jan, I understand where you're coming from with this, but Robert has been a part of the fighting game community since before I've even known him. You're at a 7, I need you at a 2. Let us not turn this into an argument that is the final episode of GVN Live, okay?
What I'm getting at the baseline is there are very specific people who I am not going to name because there's no reason for that, have adamantly and vehemently stated that the reason why the DOA community is a problem is because of its toxicity in its own right. However, that being said, I do understand that there are a lot of very good people in the DOA community. I'm not denouncing that. What I'm saying is that the very vocal minority of people in the DOA community are the prime reason why DOA 6 is not at EVO. Because they took a physical response of the game and its release to Mr. Wizard and said, if it's not at EVO, we're going to have words. And Mr. Wizard said, it's not at EVO. The second problem is that DOA 6, out of all of the 3D games, is a niche game versus, say, something like Tekken.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to compare like what was in the listings here, just in general, there's only 2 really 2-dimensional fighters in this list, which is Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle and Under Night and Birth, .exe, etc. And like that's 2 out of 9 games is not a lot of representation for that, but it's consistent representation with what exists in the marketplace at this point. You weren't going to bump either of those 2 games from the listing because it's what the community has at this point. Nobody else is doing 2-dimensional fighting games with any type of significant representation. 2 out of 9 is completely reasonable. Those 2 games were going to get in no matter what, so DOA was never going to bump them. The only game in this list DOA stood a chance of bumping was Samurai Showdown. Because Street Fighter V is going to be on these lists in every single tournament that exists from now until the heat death of the universe or Capcom releases some type of an actual Street Fighter 6, whichever comes first. And judging by how badly they've been fucking up their fighting games the last few years, I would say it's 50-50 on either one.
Either side. Absolutely. I would agree with
Tekken
that.
7, Tekken is always going to be in the list. Soul Calibur, as soon as they announced a new one, was guaranteed always going to be in the list. A Smash game was always going to be in the list. Dragon Ball Fighters, Fighter Z, whatever the fuck, has taken the community by storm, and people love this fucking game. They think it's the tits. It was always going to be it, which leaves you with 2 spots. Mortal Kombat 11 and Samurai Showdown have not come out, and probably, I want to say Mortal Kombat 11 will be out at the time that this comes out. I like Samurai Showdown, if it does come out, will be like super, super new at that point. But you're always going to see the year that a Mortal Kombat comes out, it placing in major tournaments. Not because it's a game that has any kind of tournament longevity, because let's be clear,
NetherRealm
it
never
fucking
stays for
does.
1, maybe 2
Right.
years at best.
Mortal Kombat is decidedly a casual person's fighting game, and that's fine, but you're never going to see these games defended at major tournaments because people like will wash over the game, and then they'll just be like, "Oh, never mind," and then they'll just it's Mortal Kombat again, okay, and they'll just go play something else. It gets tournament representation the year that it comes out, maybe the year after, and then never again. And Samurai Showdown is being represented directly by SNK. SNK, regardless of whatever opinions we may hold about their community or the way that they represent, is still a great grandfather in the world of fighting games, still commands a lot of clout, and King of Fighters, the last King of Fighters that came out, was a goddamn revelation and has a much larger fan base than it has any right to. Of course, Samurai Showdown was going to be placed in that list. The moment that they announced it, you could see like everybody working behind the scenes at Evo get a boner at the exact same time. It sucks the DOA wasn't represented, but DOA hasn't been relevant since if you want to be an asshole about it, since Tomonobu Itagaki left. It hasn't been relevant to people in the larger community. And that sucks for DOA because there's definitely been points where the game mechanically has actually been as good as it's ever been.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, it's, Team Ninja as a collective whole has yet to get to a point where they are consistently the Team Ninja that they used to be, for better or for worse. It doesn't help that their community has a bunch of assholes like front and center on it, but a lot of communities do, and have the market share to where major tournaments will just kind of, have a Coke and a smile and shut the fuck up when it comes to dealing with the assholes in those community. DOA doesn't have that. So when your community base is consistently as toxic as the larger communities, but you don't have the actual market share to back that up, it's not going to help you as a game. It sucks, but at the end of the day, DOA is being fucked by its own fans. By its own bad fans, let's be clear. And no matter how many of you, Robert, exist in this world, there's probably just as many horrible fucking people that exist in the same category of it that are ruining it for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand. Speaking of horrible people, let's move on to...
That was the best transition you were going to get from that. Can we stop for a second, though,
Yes.
before? Because I want to ask something. So in the Discord, I posted a video for the Shenmue trailer that was launched.
Oh, Shenmue 3? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, can you for the audience reiterate your observations on that?
Okay, so, other than the fact that I'm a giddy schoolgirl, what exactly do you want me to reiterate, exactly?
What you thought of it. You thought it was good. You thought you liked it, you enjoyed it, you were like, I'm looking forward to that, etc.
Okay, so here's what it is. I mean, granted, it's probably not as good-looking as any game that's out in this day and age. In fact, if anything, it looks kind of like a game from last generation, like something that should have came out back on the Xbox 360 days, graphically, to be truthfully honest. From what I can tell, it looks like they're going to continue the story. I'm just excited for the fact that I got engrossed in a story about 14 years ago from Yu Suzuki, and I can finally get to continue the story of where it left off.
I just thought it was interesting just because, like, that video was posted in a couple of other Discords I was in, so I shared it into ours. And, like, in all the other Discords I was in, everybody's like, God, this game looks like fucking shite. And,
No, I can perfectly understand that, because the game doesn't look that... Graphically, the game doesn't look that great. If anything, but then again, they don't have that much of a budget, so they're just making the game look as best I guess they can. Granted, they've been working on it for 3 years, but it's going to be, from what Yu Suzuki says, it's going to be a rather big game, and you got, like, a lot of content he's got to throw in there to make up for, 13 years worth of, nothing. He's been wanting to work on this game for years, and he just never... Sega just wouldn't let him for the longest time. And they practically, gave him they gave him the blessing when he worked and started his own company. Was it Usenet, or was Usenet something he did when he was with Sega? I don't remember. I have to look that up. But Jan, it looks like you really are holding your tongue. What do you think?
Okay, so here's how it goes. Yes, it's dated because it's good. Also, hey JT,
hey
it looks
Smash,
good
what's happening?
For what it looks like, because it looks like
man.
they basically just upscaled a Dreamcast game. Cool, I'm okay with that, because there's still some Dreamcast games like, I don't know, Soul Calibur that still look really fucking phenomenal. I have no problem with how it looks. What I have a problem with is the fact that if you actually look at the video, EastNet is developing Shenmue 3, but the connection to 1 and 2 are marked as original story Sega. While Sega may have given him their blessing to make the game, they want nothing to do with it. They are no way involved in it. And some of the content that he wanted to put into the game cannot be in the game. Because Sega said, nope, not going to do it. So part of the issue that I have with it is I want it to be good. I want it to be amazing. I want it to be the trilogy game that we were supposed to have when the Dreamcast was still at its height. Problem is, and this is sort of where I'm coming from on this, is, wow, I don't know that it's gonna be. Because it felt dry.
Well, to be truthfully
That
honest,
to be, it felt like, okay, the two things I noticed. One, it felt dry. And the reason why it felt dry is, yes, it's a preview trailer. It's the second story trailer we've actually seen from them since this was originally announced. Okay, I get it. I can understand where you're coming from. Why did the combat look like it was a really shitty version of Virtua Fighter 3? Please, somebody save my soul. Oh
yeah,
my god.
I was not
Please
super thrilled with the
don't
way
make me
that
happy with
combat
that.
looked like.
That looks
yeah, I mean, but
funky,
granted, at the
and
same
I'm
time, we had
afraid.
no more than maybe a 10-second glimpse of like 3 different clips of the combat. So, plus the camera angle was kind of more in a cinematic mode. So, was that more of a cinematic storyline trailer, like cutscene?
That looked like what combat's going to look like, and I'm kind of worried, because if that's the clunky combat that they're putting it in, if he's using an antiquated version of the open source Virtua Fighter 3 engine, I'm going to scream. I'm going to scream because holy shit, I hated Virtua Fighter 3's combat system. It was clunky. 2 and 4 were far above and beyond better because they were using... Okay, so 2 used an arcade rendition of the AM2 engine, and 4 used the newest AM3. 3, however, used a weird, janky combination of the AM2 engine and some other sort of subsidiary thing that Sega was working on that was supposed to replace it, and it didn't work. It was a bad game, and there was some weird, clunky floatiness that I saw in that trailer, and I'm like, oh no, this is bad. I'm kind of worried. Because if the combat is as necessary in this game as I think it's going to be, ooh, I'm worried. I'm worried. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
I have high hopes, but I'm worried.
I'm gonna just latch on to my high hopes until freaking August 28th, okay? Don't kill this buzz for me, Jan.
Look, I'm gonna pop all your bubbles, son.
No,
Don't
you're
worry
not.
about it.
No, you're not. No, you're not. No. 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 No.
That's how it
No.
goes.
No.
Look,
No.
I got
No.
murdered already. The one game I wanted to not be awkward and bad is bad. So
No.
That's how it goes for me.
I've waited 14 years for this shit. Shut the fuck up.
I'm still waiting for my remake of Final Fantasy VII. So
Okay, you do that. I just reinstalled Final Fantasy VII, and I'm gonna do those HD texture updates just to see and re-experience the game.
I only care about HD updates for good games.
oh,
Yeah. Okay. So, how was that HD update for Final Fantasy VI when it came out on Steam?
I didn't want that to be developed, so I didn't care how it was. Now, if they want to make an HD update for Final Fantasy VIII any day now, that'd be fine.
still even got
See,
Chapter.
he
It's
says
still not
for
even
good
getting
games.
re-released on Switch. It's not even getting re-released on Switch.
Look, it's not my fault. Final Fantasy VIII is better than Final Fantasy VII. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, and that's why Final
Wow.
Fantasy VII got the remake. of
No,
Final Fantasy
Jan,
VIII. Still
Jan.
hasn't gotten an
He's trying to dig
Infinity
daggers into my
update.
back because he
Listen,
knows
listen,
we universally hate Final Fantasy VIII.
Listen, no, that I did not know that actually, but I'm gonna do that now. Listen. Britney Spears is a multi-platinum recording artist.
And she can't sing. What's your point?
I think you just made my point for me.
Mm-hmm. Just because you sell millions doesn't mean you're good. I mean, yeah, I can see how you're
Right.
saying that.
Yes.
I know how you're
Yes.
saying that for 7, but 8 is shit.
Look, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you only like bad things. I don't know what to tell you.
Speaking of not liking good things,
Speaking of something that isn't good at all, let's move on
talk
to
about
our
more
first
bad-
topic 45
let's
minutes
talk about
later.
bad things. Let's talk
By
about
the way,
more
welcome to
bad
GVN
things.
Live. I'm your host, Fight Club Hubs. We are now starting the show 45 minutes in.
Oh,
I mean,
no,
we only
no.
have 2 topics. It's fine.
I know. I was not expecting
That's-
this to suddenly go into
Look, that's why I wanted to
Evo
talk about
discussion,
Evo.
into
No, it's fine.
into
I
Shenmue
wanted-
discussion.
I wanted to talk about some topical stuff because it really made more sense to me. That's foreplay.
It is
Wow!
foreplay.
It is funny because, I wasn't actually expecting that out of you. I was expecting that out of Pins and Screws, but hey, what are you going to...
Okay, so, because you killed the vibe with my awesome transition earlier, Mark. So there was a game that was supposed to be up for pending release on Steam. You might have heard of it. It's a harmless
Maybe you
little game
haven't.
called Rape Day.
I'm sorry. One more time for the people in the back who didn't hear that. What's it called?
Rape Day.
Yeah.
Not to be
okay.
confused with Japan's infamous
Rape
Rape Lay.
Oh, I never would have guessed that they were basically the same thing.
Or the fruit puzzle game Grape Day. I'm gonna grape you in the fucking mouth.
Hold on. Did he just rape them? No. That's bad. Yeah, he grapes them in the mouth.
I'm gonna handcuff you to the radiator, and I'm gonna grape you over and over again.
Decades. I don't know. I just don't feel like
That's just his catchphrase. He's the rapist. The rapist.
the rapist.
And the show just turned south. I love it.
I was going to say Fruit
That
Ninja
was-
3. Did we take this
Yeah,
too far?
Fruit Ninja 3, Rise of the Grapist.
JT shows up. Shit, who knew? Oh, I'm sorry, Alex. Was expensive piece? This is your fault too.
Gonna sue somebody. Listen, my friend Joel was working at a Radio Shack, and somebody came in offering juice samples.
I need my
He gave him,
inhaler
a sample of grape
before
juice.
Mark kills me.
He takes a sip of it, and the guy goes, "Oh, what did you think of it?" And he looked the guy dead in the face. He goes, "It tastes like I sucked a chode out of the grape ape's asshole."
Fruit Ninja 4, the regrapinance. Hobbs is dead. It's over. Waiting for the remastered deluxe edition.
You could release a 4-player co-op game later in the year. Gang Grape.
Berries in that grape ape asshole. Jesus Christ. Everything is terrible. What have we done? So
Namaste.
basically what happened was there's this unknown company that no one actually knows anything about. Oh no. First of all, Smash, no. JT, no. Bad.
Bad, JT. Bad.
Where's my... I'm gonna roll up the newspaper. No.
Smack him with your Himiko pillow.
I would, but then TOS, so not so much.
Okay, so
So company decides, hey, we're going to make this game that is basically the premise is I'm going to go around and do terrible things like degrading and raping and assaulting during a
During a zombie
zombie apocalypse. Like
Which is
that
just
makes
like-
it all better. Oh,
Yeah, which is like,
sure.
okay. Yes, the name of the company in question is Desk Lamp, which is like if you were trying to come up with a name for your development company that was just going to exist entirely for the purposes of listing a game on Steam, that is the name you would come up with.
Yeah.
Like Desk Lamp, you know, from the guys from the guys at the company Cup of Water.
Right? So they decide, hey, we're going to make this game called Rape Day, and it's going to be great, and we're going to try to put it on Steam. Now, I might mention that before they attempted to put it on Steam, they actually went to an adult game company that actually produces and sells their own adult-style AO video games directly through their website, who... Oh, wait, that's right. The reason why it's not there... Yeah, because there's blackmail in it, too. And they said... That is not something we're willing to put on, and they denied it outright. The game itself, not just because of the rape and all the other stuff, but because of blackmail. The tamest thing in that game. So then they're like, all right, well, we can't do it on this guy's thing, which is an AO site. We're going to try to put it on Steam because, you know, Honey Pop's the thing. Why the fuck not, right? So they're like, we're going to put it on Steam. So they put it through, and Steam's like, we'll get back to you on that. And everyone kind of lost their collective shit because they're like, hold up. How? Why? Why do we have to think about something like this? First of all, the name of the game is Rape Day. How does that itself not just scream, probably shouldn't put it on Steam, but Valve decided, we'll think about it. It might be a game that could make it on Steam. And then everyone lost their fucking minds. They're like, what are you thinking? Oh, wait, you're not. Then we get a news story from, I think it was Polygon and Kotaku, both basically going, hey guys, probably should not. To which then Steam comes back, and I believe the actual...
Oh, yeah, their response was great.
Specifically was...
Please.
The specific response, if I remember correctly, had something to do with the fact that they basically said, it's not technically illegal, and because it's not that, there's not really an issue, but because it could possibly have unknown losses, we're not going to put it on Steam. And I'm like, huh? Like, what does that actually mean? How is that the reason that you guys decided that this was not a problem? Now, granted, having blackmail in the form of whether or not that consists of consent in that specific light is not technically illegal. However, everything else about this game is terrible and illegal at the same time. And I know that Blizzard's trying to make their characters mortally gray, but I'll be damned if that is not just on the wrong-ass side of the line, people. Like, there's this conceptual idea that we continue to try to push the envelope of what is and isn't acceptable of a sexual nature, just in general. I think that this is pretty clearly on the wrong side of the fence, guys. And I hate to say it, but... not really a good thing. I mean, there is a level of understanding as far as what is and what isn't good or bad when it comes to consent. Because, obviously, we don't know, because Gamergate became a thing, right? Right? So we continue to look at these people who bring out these games that just continually push and poke and prod and try to figure out who may or may not at that time be looking at whatever it is that they're posting and basically be like, hey, well, that game over there is probably worse than what we're offering. No, it's not. And I'll be damned if it's really more about whether or not people are trying... Because, like, there's two sides to every story, right? People are like, but censorship. I'm like, fuck you. This isn't about censorship. This is a blatant attempt at trying to see exactly what you can and can't put on Steam. That's what this whole thing is about. Sensitive or not,
So here's my thing.
there is a way of understanding, and before I finish, the one last thing I'm going to touch on what JT just said, I also understand that there's a difference between a specific type of sensitive topic and a specific type of off, and I'm going to say this as off-topic sort of a situation, like dealing with what you would deal with in a Grand Theft Auto game. One is still morally wrong and objectionable and illegal. The other one has some form of legal counterpart that exists in the real world and is not nearly as bad. It's just a moral questionable choice at that point.
That's an
I would
interesting
agree with
comment.
that. I would agree with that.
Yeah. In case you're wondering, we got Smash JT whose comment is, yeah, it's an attempt at shock and shouldn't be there based off that, but he's worried about slippery slopes from precedents that get set from stupid troll jobs like Rape Day.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
here's my thing. Sterling released a video yesterday, fairly extensive in the actual coverage of the game itself. I don't personally need to get into the concept of the game proper. Rape is a thing that is illegal, but it is also a thing that is fetishized by some people and makes its way into various games that exist. I don't have to like that, but it's a thing that exists. Rape Day being removed from Steam was what always was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It was always going to happen. To the point where the developer of the game basically said, yeah, this probably shouldn't have gotten as far with Steam as it did. Now, I don't know if the developer was kind of just taking the piss when they listed it with Steam and it got further than they expected it to, or if they just wanted to see what would happen, if this was like some type of a method of trying to see what would happen, or if they just did it as a lark and it actually got way further than they intended it to, or whatever. I don't care. All of that is interesting in its time and place. I don't care. It doesn't matter at this point. For me, what I'm interested in is why Valve is continuing to do this sort of thing in this way and what practical value it has for them. Because in the UK, the government has started looking at Steam regulation on some level or another, like trying to get involved because there's been more and more controversy surrounding Steam as the days go on. Okay. Here's the thing. Valve absolutely does not want to be in the business of publishing games that contain objectionable content. However, Valve has also found that when they get into the business of attempting to police any of the content that is put onto their service, they can't win. So what it seems to me as though Valve has essentially done is they've taken the Twitter method of dealing with policy adjustment, which goes like this. You present a free environment where people can create content to whatever extent that they can, and then you give them the loosest of definitional guidelines as to what they can and cannot present, where they don't nail down specifics and they just kind of say, well, it's our discretion, sort of. In theory, this allows Valve to have their cake and eat it too. And something with this game, the way that this game worked, was pretty much, as far as Valve is concerned, the system working as intended. Let's be clear.
Mm-hmm.
Valve should have probably just never listed the game in the first place. It should never have gotten to a point where it was even listed as a game for sale on Steam. I think we can probably all agree on that. However, that's not the way Valve's system is designed. The way Valve's system is designed is they give your game its day in the sun, and then they come back to you with a non-specific reason why it was rejected if they feel that they have to reject it. This is basically the same model that Twitter uses.
Mm-hmm.
If they ban you for a reason unspecific that they claim is violating their guidelines, violating their terms of service, without getting into any specifics. And for as dumb as it's making Valve look right now, the actual methodology behind it is kind of genius. The basic idea is that if you know the rules, you're going to break them. And that's going to leave the parent company in a difficult situation. Take, for example, the VidCon fiasco of, I want to say 2018, but it might have been 2017, where Anita Sarkeesian was giving a talk, and Sargon of Akkad rounded up like 10 fucking assholes to sit in the front row of her talk and not say anything, but basically harass her by their presence. There weren't any rules against it, so they weren't breaking the rules by doing it. So what do you do? And the answer to that question, in the case of the Greens, was to say, you're such an asshole, we had to make rules to stop you from continuing to be the kind of asshole you are. Which, sure, whatever, we're restricting certain forms of behavior from happening. But you're also basically removing certain forms of silent protest from people who have actual legitimate criticisms that might be valuable in that kind of case, instead of, you sitting there because Anita won't talk to you because you're a scumbag piece of shit who's never said a useful fucking thing in your life. Fuck you, Carl. I'll fucking fight Sargon of Akkad. I don't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
At least I haven't been banned from Twitter twice for saying the N-word.
Oops.
But further to the point, you're also basically giving those sorts of people the ability to say, well, we didn't break any rules, they just got their fifis hurt, which nobody buys into except their own particular group of idiots. But the point is that you get into a situation where you are having to make rules because people are assholes, and these people take that as a win. They take that as their winning. So companies like Valve and Twitter aren't even giving you that opportunity. They're not giving you the opportunity to test the rules because they're never telling you the rules in the first place. They can reject a game at any time for any reason. They don't have to explain it. They can just give you a really broad baseline explanation for why your game is being removed from the service. And it's protecting them because, there aren't any concrete rules in the first place. It's a win-win situation for them because it prevents developers from attempting to push the envelope by pushing right up against where the rules would be, because we don't know where the rules are, so Valve can just remove anything that they think is disagreeable to their service, if they want to. And it also allows Valve to stay in bed with the companies who are almost certainly motivating a lot of these decisions, like PayPal, Visa, and MasterCard. Because let's be clear, Valve does not give a shit about, the uncensored version of a game like Honey Pop being on their service. Mm-hmm. They don't care. That's why they came up with this stuff in the first place, because they don't care. But PayPal cares. PayPal cares a lot. That's the main reason that companies like Patreon were forced to start kind of muscling down on pornographic content creators on Patreon. Mm-hmm. Because payment processors are run by a bunch of prudes like it's the fucking 1920s. And these companies can't come out and say, we're changing our rules because PayPal is making us do it, because if you do that, PayPal won't do business with you anymore. So you just kind of make these rules in service of accommodating people like PayPal, and then you take the heat yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that all having been said, this blew up in their face because there was never a point where a game like Rape Day should have spent any amount of time being listed on Steam service.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, it sucks because you're going to be in a position eventually, like Jim Sterling has pointed out, well, I'm glad that competition like GOG and the Epic Store exists because fuck Steam. And I'm like, sure, but what's Epic going to do when Honey Pop 2 wants to be released on their service?
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to say no? Are they going to say sure, but all the adult content has to be removed and you can't link back to the adult patch for it? Are they going to say, yeah, that's fine, you can just do it? Or are they going to say, yeah, so long as you don't violate any of our rules we're not going to tell you about, and then turn around and terminate the game 3 months later because it violates a rule that they weren't told anything about?
Yep.
This is not a problem with Steam. It is the thing that people need to understand. I love Jim Sterling, but shut the fuck up, Jim. You're wrong. This is not a problem with Steam. This is a problem with PayPal. This is a problem with Visa. This is a problem with MasterCard. This is going to be a problem with the Epic Store. This is going to be a problem with GOG. This is going to be a problem with any other corporation that sells these type of products while using payment processors who don't want to be involved in the processing of something that involves a titty.
Mm.
That's why all of the companies that are dealing with, like pornography in some form or fashion have to go through some type of weird third-party sales group. Like, if you go onto a pornographic website, you can't just register with your credit card. You have to go through some sort of weird payment processor that just completely obfuscates the process so that you can do this. Or so I've been told.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get stuff like that without going through hoops on some level or another. Mm-hmm. So the idea that kind of stuff is going to be hosted on Steam no, it's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. It was never going to happen. What's going to happen is that anytime a payment processor objects to content on the service because it's drawn attention to on some level or another, that content's going to be removed, and the content manufacturer is not going to be told why. They're just going to be told that it was some vague issue that caused it to be removed that will never allow them to correct the problem and relist the game. Because the payment processors control everything. And until we sit down and we acknowledge that this isn't a problem with Steam, that this isn't a problem with Epic, that this isn't a problem with, GOG, that this is a problem with the companies running our ability to do financial business in the world, we're never going to get any forward progress, because this is going to happen with every game seller in the world. And, it's great to, be like, this game should have never gotten where it got to on Steam. I agree. It never should have gotten to that point, and they are bringing it upon themselves that, the government is looking into it, because that game never should have been listed in the first place. But the alternative was, to continue punishing content creators for making stuff that's even a little bit sexual. And, you're kind of fucked either way there. And, I respect Jim's work, but you're wrong here, dude. You're absolutely fucking wrong here. I think what Valve did was stupid, but it's this laissez-faire thing that they're doing that's allowing companies like Manga Gamer and whatnot to start putting out games onto a service where they might see some sales. And if your solution is to go to the Epic Store where we don't even know how they're going to deal with this yet, good luck. That may be a lot worse.
I think everything that we can think of has been pretty much said at this point. So, moving on to the next big issue at hand.
Sure.
Okay, so from poor decisions to even more poor decisions, we go from Valve to EA. So, EA has come under scrutiny for apparently shrugging off and being pseudo-unapologetic for a controversy involving one of their sim influencers. A guy going by the name of Simz has apparently been harassing, both sexually and verbally, a bunch of minors. Now, if you don't know what a sim influencer is, these are pretty much people who stream
It's
the game.
PewDiePie for the Sims. It's
PewDiePie
PewDiePie for the Sims.
Yeah, and these are people who are usually invited to workshops or early builds of games to check out, like, the next expansion and voice their concerns or hear feedback and whatnot before, these things, get released.
Yeah, they're basically influencers. They're people who go out and they're like, they tell you about games that are great. They tell you about games that are awesome. These are the people that Epic wants to put the control into the hands of when it comes to recommending games out into the world. The people who are trying to fiddle kitties.
Yeah, and so we have this guy, and apparently for the longest time he's been hitting on, harassing, and he even got one boy to pretty much be convinced into a relationship with him that he eventually realized that, like, oh, I thought he loved me, and he doesn't. This guy is pretty much a low-life piece of shit, early contender for asshole of the year for next year's award show.
But on the list anyway. Let's just
it's
put it
gonna
it's gonna
take a lot to overcome that.
Yeah, he's on the list. However, what's as puzzling to the fact that his behavior's been allowed to run rampant for so long is the nonchalant way EA just addressed it. Pretty much, they came out with an apology saying, "Oh, we're sorry. We let this go on for so long. We have standards, and we apologize for dropping our standards. Pretty much, we won't let this happen again."
And I mean, that was, like, I admit, like, my way of, like, addressing the whole thing with influencers was a bit flippant, but my point there is influencers in general have no quality control associated with them.
No. EA
you just
pretty much
become popular, and then suddenly a company comes to you and says, "Hey, would you like to have access to our stuff?"
Yeah, the company pretty much sponsors them. They're not actual employees, but they are people that are usually referenced by the company. They're promoted, and people look up to these. They get their advice, whatnot. Pretty much what you just said earlier. And
they have a symbiotic relationship with the parent company on some level, where they're not directly associated with the company, so that the company can maintain plausible deniability in the event that this person turns out to be a piece of shit. But they get a lot of inherent benefits, and they get promoted by the company. It's the same thing as if you log into Battle.net and you see something on the front page that says, "Oh, well, streamer of the week," or whatever, and it's somebody who is a partnered streamer with them. They're not making money from this company. They're not an employee of this company, but they certainly do get highlighted by this company as being somebody of influence to watch in particular communities. So the problem is that these people aren't vetted in general. And, like, I'm not necessarily saying that we need to go through, like, extensive vetting processes for these people, because there's really no way you could have figured out that this guy was the way that he was before all of this happened. But you need to be careful with people like this. Like, there needs to be a point where you're kind of sort of not necessarily involving people into your content, or if accusations come forward, that you're at least giving them scrutiny. And that's kind of the problem, because there are also a lot of assholes on the internet.
So
what I
Like,
find,
let's say I became an influencer tomorrow for something. I don't fucking know what. Somebody makes a 2019 remake of Tulip, and, like, I become the fucking influencer for that for some shit awful reason. Let's just say. A whole bunch of people are mad at me because I've said mean things about PewDiePie on the internet. They go to the influencer company and they say, "This guy's a child rapist." What's this company going to do? They can't just immediately fire me because, like, 20 people showed up and said this guy's a piece of shit, because they have no corroborating information. But if it comes out that this is true, that's going to be extremely fucking bad for them. What do you do? Because, let's be clear, trolls exist and don't need a reason to fucking hurt people.
oh, absolutely, it's definitely there are people out there who just do malicious things just because they can. They don't give a crap about the outcome, people's feelings, stuff like that. I mean, that's why we got swatting. That's why swatting exists, because we got assholes out there. And what happened? Somebody got killed. An innocent man that wasn't even playing the game because they got the wrong house. But
So what do you? The question is really, what do you do in that situation? You know, if you're EA, what do you do?
But here's the thing, like you said, there's no corroborating
Corroborating
corroborating things. In this case, there have been multiple complaints from multiple people, including a friend, the brother of a friend of this person, who said he got harassed and hit on by this guy, even though he doesn't play The Sims at all whatsoever. Scumbag is scumbag. I mean,
Oh, for sure, absolutely. I'm not saying that this guy deserves any benefit of the doubt in this
Absolutely.
situation. It's just, how long do you let that go on? You know,
that is true.
Like-
How long do you let it go on? But at the same time, it looked like EA dropped the ball because they just let it sit there for months.
yeah,
Well, probably
I agree.
a couple years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Well, at the very least, we're saying December, so like 4 months at this point. You know, I definitely think 4 months is too long of a time period to do nothing on it or to have an investigation. Like, I think if an accusation like that comes through, you do have to have an investigation. Period. There needs to be some degree of investigation, even if it is something as simple as, you know, watching the motherfucker streams and seeing how they behave and seeing how they react with, you know, the people in their audience. It shouldn't be too hard to figure out if somebody is behaving improperly if you're watching the content of the people that you are in some level associating with as part of your internet brand. I don't think this should have taken 4 months for them to figure out that this guy was a toxic piece of shit and cut him out. But by the same token, like, I don't know, like, I don't think a lot of these companies in general are prepared for what an influencer-dominated future means. And they need to learn now. Like, my question of what do you do isn't a question of, like, isn't saying the EA is in the right here. My question of what do you do is, I don't think they have an answer. I don't think any of these companies have an answer. I literally don't think any of these companies are prepared for the negative aspects of bringing on people who are popular on the internet for playing their games into their fold in some level and giving them the keys to the kingdom. Like, they don't realize the negative aspects of this. And again, I'm not saying that influencers are inherently a bad thing, but I am saying that maybe these companies need to think about this a little more instead of just looking at influencers as the next way to promote their titles, because I definitely think influencers are being given way too much fucking power right now, given that they're just people who are, you know, getting popular for playing a game. Like, I'm friends with a guy, Feng Rush. We worked together in my parent company for like 3 years, and then he quit to go be a streamer full time. And I want you to understand, like, I make a good amount of money, and he was making more than me. So I was like, what are you fucking doing here? And I went and I checked in on his stream, and he does Elder Scrolls Online exclusively, as near as I can tell.
Mm-hmm.
And he had 4,000 people watching him just for him reading through the patch notes. Yeah, that's some shit, right? So it's very much a case of, I know this guy personally because I fucking worked with him for 2 years. I know he's not a piece of shit. I think he's great. You know, does Bethesda? Do they know anything about him? You know, if they invite him to start looking into this content, like, do they know anything about him? Are they asking for any kind of information on this person? Are they looking into his background in any meaningful way? Are they doing anything? Or are they just saying, hey, you're popular, want to be part of our, you know, influencer team? And I feel like in a lot of cases, these companies are just finding people online who are popular for playing games and just saying, hey, you're popular, go forth and spread the word of our game, without bothering to consider that some of these people, you know, might end up in the news a year later for trying to get in dirty with kids, or beating the shit out of their wife on stream, or admitting that they've had one or more affairs on stream, or admitting that they're like fucking addicted to drugs because being a professional streamer is fucking untenable as a long-term career path.
Or claiming
You know,
they're
it-
disabled and getting up and walking out of their wheelchair.
Yeah, or masturbating on fucking camera twice. Or, you know, like any one of a number of different things. And like we need to get to this, there needs to be a come to Jesus moment with influencers collectively where some kind of fucking due diligence is done and game companies are relying on them less than, because this is not going to help the profile of EA. This is not going to help the profile of The Sims. And this is not going to help the profile of streaming. You know, somebody reads this in fucking, like, you know, on Fox News in the morning, or they read it in the fucking Wall Street Journal or something like that, and they're just going to keep thinking that gamers are disgusting, awful monsters.
What really needs to be put into place, and it's going to be rather a difficult process, is to find some way to filter out and, like, let's say like an interview process of some kind. Like, not just, hey, you're playing this amazingly popular game, we want you to be our influencer. No, they have to come up with, like, hey, we would like you to push this game, but we want to know this about you. Tell us about this. What have you done besides this? You know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, trying, you know, at least get to know the person. And, you
Or
know,
at least, like, hire people on your company to watch the streams of the people who are influencing your product.
yeah.
Because, again, like, I've watched streamers who are very popular who, you know, behave in a way that I would not want my company associated with.
Mm-hmm.
And
So-
I feel like if you just had somebody watching these streams sometimes, like, under some kind of an assumed name, like, you would eventually see this kind of behavior and you just feel like, yeah, that thing that you're doing, don't.
So when you actually go to EA's website and you specifically go to the Game Changers website portion, it says Game Changers have full editorial control over their content and storylines. EA does not approve Game Changer content, opinions, or creative choices.
Of course
EA
not.
does monitor all Game Changer content to ensure compliance with our disclosure policy, which is primarily the presented by EA Game Changers watermark, with included audible and written descriptions. Game
Right, they care
Changers-
about their copyright, not necessarily about the content of the stream.
Right. Game Changers are generally not paid for their content, though some will sell stipends to cover minor expenses when attending official EA-sponsored events, requiring travel like EA Play and Gamescom. We may also provide pre-release access to our games. All EA Game Changer program content requires community disclosure. So here's the thing.
Yeah, those
Part of the thing...
Those first couple of sentences I heard, sorry to cut you off, just sounded to me like just some legal mumble jumbo of saying, hey, we're not responsible for the shit they do.
Exactly. So most of the kids, and I say that because they were when this happened, but most of these kids had basically said the same thing. And I'm going to read this line specifically from the article from Kotaku. The 3 teens who spoke to Kotaku directly stated and said that they were initially afraid to come forward because of Sims's status as a game changer.
Mhm.
Why? Why? What's the point? Why would you be worried about his status as a game changer unless you were really worried that maybe he'd go to jail for you? Like, obviously there's a problem here. So, because A, as I stated earlier, it's not a paid position. B, it's specifically just a position that's put in place after filing based on all of this additional information. Like, you have to apply to be a game changer. You have to follow the disclosures. You have to agree with the disclosures. And you have to be able to do all of these other specific things because you get other stuff like early access, game codes for betas, full game codes to give away to other people. All this kind of like, you get sponsored basically. And then there's 2 different sponsored by EA projects. There's Game Changers, and then there's actually another subsect called Sponsored by EA. That's what it's called. So you gain actual EA sponsorships to give away additional content, to give away additional product, and to have the ability to not just travel to some of these larger events like going to E3 or going to Gamescom or whatever it is that you're going to, but also have the ability to basically be somebody that's like, you know, you have clout at that point because now EA basically looks at you and goes, you did good, here's more EA stuff, or here's more whatever company you're doing it for stuff. And a lot of this basically was just this guy, Simz, basically being like, I'm gonna use my power to get like my jollies off on little boys because, boy howdy, I like doing that. Like, I don't really think a lot of this really comes down to is EA being intelligent about it, because let's be honest, it's EA and probably not. Pedophilia is the problem here. And the fact that something like this has to come up, especially now that we're dealing with more and more sexual-based harassment in gaming.
On top of the
especially
fact
with the
that
less-
in the media, the two big things are the Michael Jackson HBO documentary and the R. Killing nonsense. I had to add that in, sorry.
No, you're fine, I get it. Riot. EA. What's the third one? Who's going to be number 3? Because at this point, we already know bad things come in threes. And all we need is more negative press looking at gaming going, oh, so now not only is it violence, it's sexual deviance? What are we going to do? You know, I don't know. I think a lot of it is really just a matter of, like, I was reading through the article on Kotaku while you guys were talking about it earlier, just so I can kind of get a little bit more information, because I didn't get a chance to actually read it because I was out for most of the day. But damn, like, just looking at a lot of the stuff that he was doing was just like, that's just nasty. Why? Like, first of all, and I don't mean it to sound terrible, but it's going to. Motherfucker, you played The Sims. Who the fuck do you think you are? You're not anybody. You're not cool. You're a Sims player. You cater to, like, soccer moms and kids who can't afford online subscriptions because their parents won't give them a credit card to play WoW or 14. You are a person that is not as cool as you actually think you are because you play The Sims. Granted, if you're making content while playing The Sims, sure, that's cool. You've got some talent, but
My son
holy
playing
crap,
Minecraft is
you're
cooler
not
than you.
important. You're not
Well, it's like-
important. You're not important.
Here's
Why
the
is
thing,
this
though.
something we have to keep our time? Like, why am I wasting my time on somebody like this?
The other thing is like going back to the quote that they said where they were talking about being afraid. I think you're looking at it from the perspective of like, well, they were afraid maybe they damage his career or something like that. What if they were afraid of what would happen to them? Because
I mean, we are in
talk
an
about
era
the idea
where
of, oh yeah, well, you play The Sims, haha, blah blah blah. But like this guy's social media accounts are all deleted.
yeah,
They're all gone.
He's gone.
So we don't know what
Yeah.
his follower count was. But if he was being given that sort of carte blanche by EA,
Mm-hmm.
one has to make the assumption that he had a decent following. Okay, so you're going to report this person, but you're also seeing like how people are being treated for coming forward with stories of harassment in the news.
Mhm.
Some people are going to be able to say, this doesn't matter, this person shouldn't be able to do to me what they're doing to other people, or shouldn't be able to do to other people what they're doing to me, excuse me. I can't let this go on.
Mm-hmm.
But kids in particular are going to probably be afraid. Am I going to get fucking doxxed off the internet? Is somebody going to show up at my fucking house because I'm accusing this person of being a child molester?
To be truthfully
You know?
honest, I have someone that I follow. I mean, I talked about her before, Mars Girl. She's being harassed nonstop,
She's been harassed for like ever since the day that the fucking docs came out about Channel Awesome.
But no.
like, she's
This is
been
now. Here's
harassed,
something
like,
more
every
harassment.
day.
Here's something more recent. She somehow got grouped in as an accuser of the voice actor Vic Mignogna. What?
Vic Mayonnaise.
Yeah, that guy. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It's stupid. But this
Mignon.
guy
Yeah,
has been.
Vic Mignon, yeah.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
guy has been
yeah.
accused of sexual harassment of every kind. Mars Girl made a couple of comments by saying, I met him 3 times, and he never got touchy-feely with me or anything like that, but I want to believe that this is possible. And she has been harassed nonstop. I've actually been in her stream a couple of times where people have swarmed her with disgusting chats and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, any horrible thing that happens on the internet that is appended with the word "gate" is generally run by the scum of the fucking earth.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, but that's just how this kind of ends up being more often than not.
As a matter of fact,
Vic
she's...
Mignogna and his I stand with Vic / anime gate nonsense is just the dirt worst people from this part of society kind of showing up and being like, these people did this for reasons because they want to get whatever power from him. They want to get his role as Edward Elric in the Fullmetal Alchemist stuff, basically. And you know, they don't care that these people might have been negatively impacted. They don't believe them, or they do believe them and they just don't give a shit. And at the end of the day, it eventually becomes a case of, you know, fuck you, we're just going to make your goddamn life miserable.
And that's pretty much what's what a lot of these people are feeling may happen to them if they come out against Simz. But Jan?
Sidetrack. I watched him do it in '96. I know he's capable of doing it. I know that he did do it. I watched him do it to a 14-year-old girl at an anime convention. So,
oh yeah, no, I'm friends with a person
he's
who
an absolutely
I will
terrible
not
human
name.
being.
I'm friends with a person who I will not name, who worked as a assistant at a number of conventions, and it was an open secret that he was an awful fucking scumbag, and he was very specifically maintained in specific ways to account for his scumbagitude. Everybody who was involved in the actual handling and wrangling and corralling of people at conventions knows it. It is true. It absolutely fucking happened. The person that I'm talking about, I trust them implicitly and explicitly with everything that they've told me. The guy's a scumbag piece of shit.
Now, to get back to the other scumbag we're talking about, Simz, have we pretty much said all that we can on the subject at hand, or is there anything more that we can delve into in regards to EA's poor handling of the situation?
It doesn't surprise me because EA doesn't pay attention sometimes because, let's be honest, it's EA. They have other big fires that they have to worry about putting out because it's EA and they started them. A lot of it also comes down to the fact that there is just not a lot of people right now in our sort of world that we live in, as far as gaming is concerned, that don't really pay attention. And we need more. And I think that's a big issue. I think something like that needs to be addressed. I think PR as a base general concept when it comes to just where things are at and where things are going right now, we need people. We need somebody in charge of each of these companies that have the ability, maybe not all of them, but the ones that we know that are problems, like EA and
Riot.
Oh, don't even get me started about THQ Nordic right now. Because holy shit, that is the
Didn't
biggest...
we fucking talk about them? Didn't we already
it
talk
got
about them
worse.
2 weeks ago?
It got worse. I don't know if you heard about it, but more and more people are going back on THQ Nordic going, you knew what you were getting into going to 8chan and you fucked up and did it anyway. They knew what was going on and they still went there and did it and went, right, no, forgot, internet is a public thing, we shouldn't do that. And they tried to backpedal. Now it's not a case of, oops, we didn't know, we're sorry, we fucked up, to, well, we really didn't know, and the guy we thought was cool, and, like, it went from, excuse us, to backpedaling, and it's just getting worse. But the baseline is that we don't have control anymore. People don't pay attention. They do small little things that you don't think are going to get out, and then all of a sudden, nuclear fucking clouds and the mushroom clouds flying around in the background because, heaven forbid, people try to be something more than what they think they are and something stupid happen. You're like, ooh, hey, I got a great idea. I'm going to try to solicit sex from young boys. Yeah, that seems really dumb. You probably shouldn't do that. Did it anyway. Hey, I know, I'm going to allegedly have somebody that I have worked for me for 14 months, on a project that we're going to be releasing at a specific event, and then fire them because we don't think they did a good enough job because they kept poking at us about getting a raise. By the way, it was a woman. There's just this quality control thing about human nature that isn't being taken care of anymore, that maybe wasn't as bad in the 90s. I don't know. But
But
where we are
we weren't
now,
relying as much on people who got famous just for playing video games in the 90s.
I mean, maybe we should go back to that.
I
Just
definitely
saying,
I think
it
that
worked better then.
there's no way of putting that particular genie back in the lamp.
No,
you
you're
know?
right.
But I do think that there needs to be some degree of better quality control as it relates to monitoring what they're doing. Like, it's great and all for EA to say, we're monitoring them to make sure that they're maintaining the standards of our brand.
Mhm.
But if you see them like flirting with somebody, like acting in a way that is, generally considered to be uncomfortable,
Mhm.
regardless of the subject of the flirting, or regardless of whatever's being done there needs to be a point where the company steps in and says, look, you're not employed by us, but don't do that if you want to continue to have our brand name associated with you. Like, there needs to be a point where we can where these companies can step in and just be like, hey, this behavior isn't cool. And I don't care about this plausible deniability shit. I don't care about like, oh well, they're not employed by us, so it doesn't matter. Okay, if you're monitoring their content because
It
you
is
want to
your
be
responsibility.
yeah, if you're monitoring their content in any capacity, that just says that you're not monitoring it for the right things. If you're monitoring their content for your brand being handled appropriately, there's no goddamn reason you can't be monitoring their content to make sure that they're not fucking harassing viewers, or they're not being, gross, disgusting perverts, or Christ only knows what else. There has to be a point where you, as the parent company who are letting these people peek behind the curtain, are also saying you have to be upstanding members of the community. And if you can't do that, I don't care how popular you are, we don't fucking need you.
And
Absolutely.
And I mean, hopefully
Absolutely.
this is the event that inspires that gets us to a point where companies start holding these sorts of content creators accountable. I don't think it will, but I mean, I hope it is, just because I don't want to be in a position where this happens again in 6 months or a year, and companies are like, we don't know how that could have possibly happened. It's
Yeah.
this needs to get better, and until companies start doing this, anytime a company says that they're going to be relying more heavily on influencers, I'm gonna look side-eyed at them and go, yeah, okay, that's not gonna fucking go well.
and I think we can end the night on that note right there.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the only thing that I can really put on that, just to sort of put a cap on it, is you work in a call center. If you work in a place where you have to talk to people on a daily basis, there is a company group called Quality Assurance. Quality assurance people will check your calls to make sure that you are following company guidelines on a regular basis. You will have to talk with your supervisor on a weekly or bi-weekly basis about pulled calls from the quality assurance people to ensure that you are following company rules. That shit needs to be in place for streamers by the companies. If it's not, do it anyway, because there is a problem and it is getting worse every month. Fix your shit. Why does it have to be so broken? I don't care if I get to watch people playing the game. In fact, I generally prefer it because it helps me understand what it is that I'm going to be getting into before I decide I want to spend 30, 40, 50, 60, 100, $200 on a game that's going to be something that I'm spending a lot of fucking money on. If I think for a moment that somebody is going to do something stupid, like drop an N-word, or make transphobic comments, or run around Japan and disrespect the entire country, I think I would want to know about what they're doing prior to them being an ambassador for my company. I don't care who you work for, Riot, EA, Square Enix, any company. If you are a gaming company and you have a program enveloped in your gaming company that allows you as a streamer or a public figurehead in the gaming world have access to this content, they all need to be held to the same level of accountability as someone like myself who works at a call center and has to talk to a supervisor once every 1 week to 2 weeks on a one-on-one basis to ensure that my quality and my calls meet the guidelines that the company has set forth. If I have to do it, so should you.
Okay. EA, you dropped the ball. And on that note, I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. This was the longest show we've ran in practically about a year and a half. We had a lot to talk about, to be truthfully honest.
Sometimes we have a lot to talk about.
Today we did. It was a great show, in my personal opinion. Mark, Jan, thank you so much for being with me tonight. Real quick, just to plug your shows, go right ahead. Mark?
I stream every Friday and Saturday night, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over at twitch.tv/MarkBWriting. Every Friday, we do Let's Play Friday, where we are playing through Super Robot Wars V, not 5, V. I found that out the hard way. And every Saturday, we do either some type of variety game or board games. I mean, we're doing pretty well as a stream right now. I've actually gotten enough to get to the next sub tier for affiliate. So I already have a sub waiting to go. I'm just waiting for them to open it up. So good times.
Yeah, congratulations, Mark.
Thank you.
Hard work. And Jan, what's happening?
I've been sort of on and off purely just because I was waiting for my schedule to sort of clear up. Now that I know what my days off are and I have a bit more of a clearer picture as to what is actually going to work and what is probably not going to, things are probably going to be changing in terms of my base schedule for streaming. Mondays are still going to be a thing since I actually have Mondays off. I do also have Tuesdays off now, so I'm off Mondays and Tuesdays, so I will not be going anywhere. I still be here enough time for the show. So That's positive. I'm pretty stoked about that. They actually worked with me because I told them I'm willing to work that Saturday if you give me Tuesday off, and they said, "You're willing to work a weekend?" And I said, "Absolutely." And they said, "Done." They're like, "You're gonna work the same schedule, right?" "Yeah, I'm not looking to change times unless you want to give me a morning shift, because that would be better than 2:30 to 11 o'clock at night." But another story for another time. But yeah, I mean, everything seemed to good go. So at this point, I am talking with a couple of other people specifically about sort of just what's going to work in terms of timing, based on making sure that I can have my mods on the channel. I didn't tell you guys this, but I had an idiot raid last week. And boy, oh boy, was I pretty upset about it. Like, I was okay with it when it happened because I was able to control it because I had my mods in the chat at the time. So we were able to banhammer and lock out people very rapidly. But before I got a chance to actually get things cleared up and locked in voice chat, they all started jumping in and were saying things that I can't say on this because TOS. And so yeah, I had basically had to completely scrap the entire VOD from that specific stream, purely because of everything that happened on that. So things are sort of changing as far as how I have everything set up on my Discord, how I have things set up on my channel. There are a couple of people that ended up following who I wish I knew how to get rid of them, but you can't because Twitch doesn't let you. So at this moment, I am working on making sure that the times that I'm streaming can and will coincide with the time where I can have at least one of my mods in the chat at all times. At least going forward for a short period of time until I can make sure that things are cleaner and I don't have to worry about stupid people. Because I'll be honest, when a lot of times people join the channel, they see me and they go, "Ooh," and then when they realize that I'm transgender, all hell breaks loose. So it's starting to get to that point. I wasn't sure when it was going to happen because I knew it would have happened eventually, but it's finally started to happen. So things are changing a little bit. I'm kind of cleaning up sort of some stuff, making sure that I have mods available. But right now I want and trying to stick to the same ideal schedule of Monday, Wednesday, Friday. However, my Wednesday, Friday streams will most likely either be morning or way late evening. We're talking like midnight, 1 a.m. Mountain Time. So we're still discussing times to see what works best. But at this point, that's where we're looking at right now.
Okay. That's interesting. And now my little notification is now saying I'm live. That's cute. But anyway, for me, I still stream every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Every other Tuesday, it's GVN Live. Every Monday, for the time being, is Monster Hunting Mondays, and Wednesday is Three Vets and a Noob. I'm trying to get my friends tomorrow to see if we could play something tomorrow. Like I was telling you guys about it, I'm going to try and get them to play the Visceral Cleaning Detail game, which, to be honest, looks absolutely stupid fun. And I really wanted to play it. I didn't know I needed that in my life.
Fair enough.
Yeah. All my stream times, Mondays usually is variable. I can start as early as 5 a.m. or 5 p.m. or I start as late as, my normal starting time of like 9 at night. But we start our the stream on Tuesday at 9. Every Wednesday we start a stream at 9. And yeah, we're gone for about a couple hours. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. You guys are awesome. Thank you for being here.
Hey,
Yes?
Hey, Robert.
Hey.
Why don't we? I just saw Spencer's live. Why don't we raid him when we're done here?
That
Yeah,
sounds like
cool.
a brilliant idea. So, let's see here. Let's try this new. Ooh, they give me a list. I don't see.
Mr. Pure Instinct.